In the finale of Breath of the Wild's DLC, Link returns to the Shrine of Resurrection. The room lowers to reveal the final test for the hero. But was this trial used before? What's good, my homies? It's Edible Incredible, and today I'll be theorizing into the Champions Ballad. But first, let's cover a little backstory. 10,000 years prior to Breath is when the First Calamity struck. Hyrule was fully prepared with the divine beasts, guardians, princess, and the hero to drive back Ganon. Other than that, we know next to nothing about this story. Maybe one day we'll get a prequel to Breath of the Wild showcasing this past calamity. But for now, let's speculate into the details of this occurrence. First of all, was a Shrine of Resurrection around during this time? Well, in my belief, 10,000 years ago was when the Sheikah created it. In Zelda's research notes from 100 years ago, she explains how they recently discovered this Shrine of Resurrection. In the war against the Calamity 10,000 years ago, were the injuries so great as to necessitate such a facility? Sadly, this question will probably never be answered, but I can infer during this time was when the Sheikah raised the Great Plateau above Hyrule. In a memory between Link and Zelda from 100 years ago, you can see the plateau was already raised in the background, meaning the mysteries of the plateau were unknown even 100 years ago. Now, the easy answer is that the Sheikah elevated the plateau so that if the hero fell, he'd be safe in the Shrine of Resurrection, since it's above the rest of the land. But I don't think that's the only reason they decided to do so. Remember, the DLC dungeon is underneath the Shrine of Resurrection, which is literally inside of the Great Plateau. So I believe they elevated the plateau to make enough room underneath it to craft this final trial for the hero. In doing so, they made this location separate from the rest of the world, making it difficult for enemies to get to. In result, the Great Plateau became the best defense to heal and recover, as well as the best offense to train the hero and preparation of the Calamity. Something else I want to point out is the reward for this dungeon, the Master Cycle 0. Upon receiving it, the monk describes how it's a masterpiece of innovation, created for the one true hero. This dungeon, along with everything on the Great Plateau, has been stagnant for roughly 10,000 years, as that's when the Sheikah elevated the land and crafted this trial. Because of this, the hero during their time must have went through this final dungeon to prepare for Ganon, so he too must have received the Master Cycle 0, but I believe it played a bigger role back then. Sure, they had the Guardians and the Divine Beasts on their side, but the Master Cycle 0 may have been a crucial key in defeating Ganon. After getting the bike in Breath of the Wild, Zelda mentions, with the power you've obtained, I'm certain you can defeat Calamity Ganon, even though at this point in the game, almost every player has already stormed Hyrule Castle. Zelda still states this as if the Master Cycle 0 is almost as important as the Master Sword. So now, think about it. The Guardians were shown to surround Ganon, while the hero and princess were up close and personal to the beast. In the cutscene of 10,000 years ago, Impa states how the Guardians were tasked with protecting the hero. I'm sure Ganon was aiming to kill the hero as he's the only one that can truly defeat him. Therefore, the Link of that time could have used the Master Cycle 0 to quickly avoid any attack. While the Guardians distracted Ganon away from Link, Link circled Ganon with the bike in search of his weak spot. Or at least that's how I'd imagine it playing out. So, to sum up my theory for you guys, I believe the Great Plateau was raised in response to the Sheikah wanting to create a final challenge for the hero, as well as to isolate the hero so he can heal and or train at will. Also, I'd imagine that this dungeon must have been designed for the hero of 10,000 years ago, since his era was during the Sheikah tech's prime, resulting in this hero being the first to obtain the Master Cycle 0, and possibly even defeating the Calamity with it. Now, what do you guys think? When was the Great Plateau elevated, and why? Was the past hero the first to ride the Master Cycle 0? Let me know your thoughts down below, and as always, I hope you all stay hype! So, it's actually 5 AM right now, and I have a flight to catch to LA in a few hours, so peace!